Hey there everyone, this is Adamantium here again. Today I'm going to be talking about my support for the Reform Section 5 campaign. Now, for those of you who don't know what this is, Reform Section 5 is a campaign to propose to remove the phrase insulting words or behaviour from Section 5 itself. Now, for those of you who don't know what Section 5 is, it's Section 5 of the Public Order Act 1986, which states, and I quote, "Harassment, alarm or distress. A person is guilty of an offence if he A. uses threatening, abusive or insulting words or behaviour, or disorderly behaviour, or B. displays any writing, sign or other visible representation which is threatening, abusive or insulting within the hearing or sight of a person likely to be caused harassment, alarm or distress thereby." Now, for those of you who have a good noggin screwed onto your neck, you'll know that this actually just basically gives license for anyone to choose to be offended by anything, thus being able to call the police and get someone arrested because of your subjective choice to be offended. Now, this just completely flies in the face of our freedom of speech. Now, this is something which I've been privy to for a while, but haven't really had that sort of boot up my bum to sort of get behind any sort of action to reform it. But I recently found out about the Reform Section 5 campaign. In particular, I found out about it because of there's a video on YouTube of Rowan Atkinson and his I think 7-minute speech at a parliamentary reception, speaking about the reform of Section 5, a link to which you will find here. And basically he gave a very good case for the reform of Section 5, and so I started to do a little bit of digging into the campaign itself, went onto their official website and found that they actually have a feature where you can find exactly who your local MP is and basically send them a message. And the message I sent found out my local MP is a Conservative MP for the Maidstone and Weald constituency by the name of Helen Grant. And what follows is the email that I sent her. Now, here we go. Quote, "Hello there, and thank you in advance for taking the time to read. As an activist and a human being that enjoys and exercises freedom of expression, I am writing to you to urge for your support for the Reform Section 5 campaign, which has garnered support from numerous MPs and even well-known and loved comedians such as Rowan Atkinson and Stephen Fry. The Reform Section 5 campaign urges for the removal of the phrase insulting words or behaviour from the Act itself. This does not in any way undermine or weaken the Act, because our safety is still ensured by the remainder of it. This statute has been abused far too much for far too long, even in the United Kingdom, where we pride ourselves on being a free country and the seat of a great deal of social change, and home to pressure groups, protests and a wide variety of people who stand up for what is right, just and for the good of the populace. Not only that, but they harbour no fear in doing so. However, because of the vague and permissible nature of Section 5, anyone can be arrested for seemingly anything. Free speech is now a crime, and so is expressing your opinions and views as per Article 10 of the Human Rights Act, merely due to an individual choosing to be offended and calling the police. Now, how can we dare to call this a free country when the very standing up for what is right and free is now a criminal act? To give you an example of an equivalent motoring offence, say for example you show yourself as a considerate, law-abiding and careful driver. However, someone takes a dislike to the make, model or colour of your car, or merely believes without evidence that you are a bad driver, and calls the police to that effect. This now makes you a criminal and you can be arrested and charged. Is this a just law? So why have we allowed such a ridiculous measure to be established contrary to free speech? As you can imagine, I too have been at the receiving end of Section 5. Last month I was unlawfully arrested on site, held in a cell for 7 hours, then released with a harassment warning, merely because 5 alleged individuals had called the police to make false allegations about my conduct on a megaphone while giving out free hugs in Maidstone Town Centre. I've put in brackets, articles in both the KM and the Sun newspapers have covered this incident, close brackets. The police have been trying for 5 months prior to this arrest to call an end to my exercising of my human right to freedom of expression, and took full opportunity to grab me and in fact defend these unsubstantiated claims to the extent of inferring dishonesty or mental illness on my part, because the alternative was to consider the allegations as false and without evidentiary support. One of the statements pertaining to my alleged speech over the megaphone was to the effect of, and I quote, "People with cancer deserve to die. There is no hope for them, and if you have cancer, it must mean that you've done something wrong in your life." End quote. As a cancer survivor myself, I know full well who really has the right to be harassed, alarmed or distressed by such a spurious and in fact slanderous allegation. However, the police took these statements on blind faith and used them as an excuse to arrest me. For the full story on this, here is the link to the video I made on this incident. A link to the part 1 of my Maidstone Police Win and Fail video. Carrying on, this kind of statute phrasing and thus police and authoritarian behaviour is not befitting of a legal system which claims to have the best interests of the public at heart, let alone have a firm grasp on the very concept of burden of proof. This is why the precept of our legal system is innocent until proven guilty, because the prosecution has the burden of proof. However, thanks to Section 5, the burden of proof is now considered dishonestly shifted onto the defendant, and as a result I now have to take unreasonable measures to ensure I accrue my own evidence of my lawful behaviour when out on the street. This is completely ridiculous and, as I said, unbefitting of what is laughably called a free country. I ask you, what is more important? Freedom, and thus the ability to call this a free country, or the supposed right to support, endorse and perpetuate tyranny in the form of the ability to get anyone arrested because of a subjective choice of offence? I urge you to look into the proposal of this campaign, which can be found at www.reformsection5.org.uk. Support it and help make this country free once more. Again, thank you for your time. Now, that's the email that I sent to my local MP. I've already sent one. What are you guys going to do? Are you guys going to, you guys in the UK, are you going to email your local MP to try and get Section 5 reformed? Because this doesn't just affect us activists; it affects all of us. Because here's the thing, right? Even though, some people might say, oh, but this just gives everyone the freedom to say whatever they want. No, it doesn't. Because, like I've said, it doesn't demean or diminish or, or derail the act itself, because we're still protected against real legitimate threats against our sovereignty, our safety. So really all that needs to be removed is the phrase insulting words or behaviour, because what is insulting to, because I mean I've covered this so much on my previous podcasts and everything. If you want to find out which ones, I think it's in some of my early miscellaneous Q&A podcasts that I've done, and I've covered the and also in my transitional thinking presentation that I gave at the London Z-Day event this year. Like I've said in those, offence is a subjective act. You choose to be offended, and what offends you might not offend me. So how can we actually make a law giving us a right to be offended or a right not to be offended? There is no, Section 5 is the only law that tries to at least pretend to give us that right. And I can't. Maybe you guys know of any statutes that in the UK that are like this. But as far as I'm aware, Section 5 is the only statute that basically makes a criminal act not because of an act on someone's behalf, but if someone chooses to believe that it is a criminal act. One of the examples I gave when I was interviewed by the police is that, murder, for example, is a criminal offence whether someone is offended by the act of murder or not. The very act in of itself is a criminal offence, and so it should be. If you're guilty of murder, and you did do it, then you have basically taken someone's life. That is not, that is harm. That is a breach of the common law offence of harm, right? So how can you legislate something because of a subjective choice that someone has made? And like I said in my Maidstone Police win and fail video about this incident, I think the businesses around where I was doing my megaphoning have a financially vested interest in getting me arrested, because supposedly the reason why I should have been arrested in the first place is because my actions are affecting their business. So essentially they profit from me getting arrested. So that is otherwise known as a conflict of interest. Are the police beholden to basically protect business above freedom of expression? No. They swear an oath to uphold human rights. That's in the English police oath that I read out. I read out the police oath in my activist armour video. If you want to find out about that, search for activist armour. A brief layman's guide to the law and your rights, I think it's called. But yeah, that's essentially that. And the thing is, I'm in full support even of the because the motto for the Reform Section 5 campaign is feel free to insult me. Now, I'm actually in complete support of that motto, because the thing is, I let people insult me. People insult me day in, day out. And do you see me on the phone to the police saying, "Oh, they insulted me"? No. Why? Because I'm a grown-up. I realise that some people just won't like what you're doing. They have a right to be able to express their opinion that, oh, you're a dick, sort of thing. Okay, fair enough. You think I'm a dick? Have a good day. That's why on the megaphone I actually make sure I say this over the megaphone. If someone said, "Oh, you're a dick, get a job," shut the fuck up, things like that. People say things like that to me, like nearly all the time. I don't call the police for that. And and one of the things I make sure I say on the megaphone is, "Well, thank you very much for the heckle, sir. I'm not sure how I can grow from that insult, but have a nice day." You see, I take it because I'm mature enough and I have a sense of humour enough to realise that what I'm doing is expressing my freedom of expression. Expressing freedom of expression, yeah. And they're exercising their freedom of expression, and we both go our separate ways after we've exchanged. That's it, right? Why should anyone call up the police? "Oh no, he's saying offensive things," or "What's he saying?" "Oh, well, and in the case of my arrest, they had to make stuff up about it because they realised for five whole months they weren't able to actually get an arrest from me. It was like, oh no, what are we going to have to do? Well, we're going to have to make something up. But that's all explained in that two-part video that's like an hour, just over an hour long in total. But yeah, I mean, I let people insult me. There's no big deal, you know. People should just get over themselves. You know, we don't have a right to be offended, and we don't have a right not to be offended. I mean, Section 5 tries to pretend to give us that right, but the thing is, we also fallaciously try and call this a free country. But is this really a free country when we have Section 5 in place with including the phrasing insulting words or behaviour? How can we call this a free country? So, I've been rabbiting on for a bit too long now, so I just wanted to make this brief video to basically express my support for the Reform Section 5 campaign. For those of you who want to find out more about it, you can find it on Twitter, on Facebook, and on YouTube. The official site is www.reformsection5.org.uk. There you can contact the people behind the campaign. You can put in your postcode so you can find your local MP. Personally, I would instead of using the website itself to contact your local MP, put in your postcode and it gives you the email address for your local MP. Copy and paste that email address into your Hotmail page or whatever email system you use, and then send it that way. Because at least then, you know, if you've written, you know, a good spiel about it, like I have, then you can at least share that with other people and, you know, reread that and review it and blah blah blah. But yeah, please, for the love of nature, please support the Reform Section 5 campaign. It doesn't just affect us activists; it affects us all. Okay, and for those people who feel so affronted by people expressing their views, I'm sorry, but your choice of offence does not trump freedom of expression, which, by the way, is a human right. Okay, and Section 5 is just a statute. Okay, one of the things a friend of mine asked me recently is when he asked me about Section 5, and I'm like, and he's like, but what is Section 5? And I'm like, well, it's an act of Parliament, secondary legislation, sort of thing. And he's like, well, but what is it? Is Section 5 a fact? And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, and he's like, no, it's just an opinion. So, I mean, that's something that can be looked into. But the thing is, even though, by that sort of rationale, reforming Section 5 still doesn't really make any difference, because Section 5 is just a statute, doesn't mean anything in terms of your common law sovereignty. But it does. But reforming Section 5 and removing insulting words or behaviour from Section 5 will take the wind out of the sails of any jumped up authoritarian police officer who thinks they have the authority to trample on your civil liberties and lock you up for merely speaking freely in what is supposed to be a free country. So I urge you all, go to www.reformsection5.gov .org.uk, sorry, and please, find out who your local MP is, email your local MP, spread the knowledge of this campaign, and I hope that the Zeitgeist movement, which I'm an activist for, will also get on board to support this campaign as well. But that's all for me. I hope you're all doing well, and let's all just get together, guys. Let's all unite and fight tyranny. Okay? Namaste.